Limiting beliefs are always running in our subconscious mind without us even knowing that they're there, because they are describing our reality the way it is projected by these beliefs. And so we're not aware and we're always buying into them. But there comes a point where we know that we want to achieve something, that we want to move in a specific direction, and yet we find that we can't because there is a sort of narrative in our minds that prevent us from doing that. That's a limiting belief. Now, it doesn't matter how we acquire this limiting belief. The only important thing to notice, and that is the crucial point, is that it's there. We often notice this, as I said, because we want to do something, we want to achieve something, and yet we feel a sort of stepping on the brake every time we feel the desire to do it. And this is the moment in which we feel stuck in life because we want to progress in the direction that we want, and yet there is a lot of resistance to it. And this is all due to these limiting beliefs. Now, usually what we are compelled to do is to go inside the belief, to get to know it better, to understand it, and to perhaps even go back into whatever experience generated it. Sometimes people even go to past lives or hypnosis and things of this kind to try to dissolve these limiting beliefs. Now, one of the things that I find that can be a little distracting is that if we go into the understanding and into the narrative itself and the origin and the people surrounding it and the forgiveness of it and all these practices, we're still leaving untouched the roots of the limiting belief, which is what we want to surely cut out. I'm not saying that this doesn't work, but it is a little bit more of an involvement in there. There is more involvement in getting into it, and there are processes that are beyond our control sometimes where we cannot get into a state of hypnosis ourselves, or we need help from somebody else, and so on. So how can we do this from our own being? This is where we go into the roots of a limiting belief. Because you see, a limiting belief, it's always a narrative that is playing in our minds. And that narrative might have been created at some point, and our minds just keep repeating it every time it is exposed to a particular situation that we feel that is going to warrant this story to play again. And to prevent us from harm, it creates this fear reaction that makes us recoil, so to speak, to the action that we want to take, or the activity that we want to engage in, and so on. And this translates to every possible limiting belief, because that narrative is very convincing. It has been playing out for a long time, and the more we play it out, the more it seems real, because it creates this dynamic with life in which we react to the situation or the person or even our own thoughts, our own imagination, our ideas of what we want to do. So maybe we even play out this scenario in our minds of what we want, coming from a pure desire of wanting to help others or to improve ourselves or anything of that kind. And it is met with this story. It is so automatic that we don't even know it is a story. It is simply a reaction to the situation, to the scenario, to the conversation. And so we continue to reinforce this, and the answer is always to be safe, stay back, don't do it. Here's where we start to feel very stuck, because we see that every time we have this scenario, or we confront a situation, or we face a relationship with somebody, this plays out, and we know that it doesn't make us feel good because it is out of fear. So if we start paying attention to this, we notice that there is an association with the story. So how do we correct this from the roots? If we understand that there is an association with the story, then there is identity involved. You think you are a character in that story, and at that moment you feel threatened, and fear is the first reaction. So to first dive into this fully, you need to allow the situation to arise, and you need to experience it. But one key thing needs to happen, which is the return of identity to where it belongs. And this is what we do when we inquire into the self, and we see that we're not a character in that story. Rather, the character in the story that plays out is witnessed by me. It is observed by me. It is, I am aware of that story. You see? So that will allow the story to begin to unfold in more detail. Not because we want the details, but because in the unfolding of the details, can we see more clearly that it is nonsense, that it really is something that we shouldn't even be worrying about. But remember what I said at the beginning. When we react to these limiting beliefs, there's not even a moment of contemplation for it, because it is so ingrained in us. This is a survival mechanism, which makes sense. The mind and the body needs something really fast to react to the world. And so when it is presented with a situation and fear for survival kicks in, then we create this quick story, quick understanding of the situation as fear and reactivity, recoiling from it. So first, you need to understand that this is totally normal. It is absolutely normal to create these reactivity patterns. Don't think there is anything wrong with you. Actually, it is very healthy to have this. It's just that it's not healthy to allow it to keep playing in your life in other situations when it's not required. So maybe you think that a particular type of person is untrustworthy, or they are cruel. There's a story playing out there. You don't know why, but that's how you deem that, and you're judging before you even know the person, right? First, know that there's nothing wrong with you. That is a survival mechanism at some point created by a situation, scenario, an experience in general. And because it is so efficiently compacted into a reaction, we don't know what it's playing out there. Okay, so first, know that it's totally fine. It's healthy and it's normal to have these reactions. What is not healthy and normal is to keep them as a reference for future situations and interactions with reality. And you begin to know this because you start to feel that there are too many of them, and they are preventing you from living the life that you want, which is in peace and in service to everything and everybody around you. So once you notice this, you know that it is normal that you have this almost instinctual, we would say, reaction, but it's not instinctual. Maybe at the beginning it was instinctual for survival at some point. Not anymore. Now that we know this, we know that there is an identity associated with that story, with that reactivity, and all we're doing is returning it to where it belongs. Who am I in the situation? I am just the awareness of it, nothing else. And I stay there. I allow the emotion to come up with the story. And even if I don't see it completely, that's fine. That's why I emphasize for you to notice that this reactivity can simply come up as an emotion, and it's fine. You don't need to go into the details, the origin, the people surrounding it at the moment, and who you need to forgive to. None of that. All you need to do is stay with the emotion, allow it through. Don't resist it. And also, while you take identity from it, there's no need for you to validate it, to go into it, to allow it to describe your reality, to allow it to describe yourself as that. Simply let it be. This is what we call acceptance. This is what we call forgiveness, actually. Letting go is what forgiveness is. Not a particular activity or conversation you need to have with yourself or somebody else. It's just letting go of the experience as you doing it or you responsible from it. It's inertia. It is coming through. Simply return attention to where it belongs, to you, and allow the emotion, the experience to come up. Like I said, over time, the more you experience this, and it may take time for you to completely dissociate from this false identity, the more time it goes through, then the more you'll begin to see more of its components as being simply a structure, a thought pattern, nothing else. And divested, devoid from your identity, it begins to just simply dissolve as inertia, as thoughts, simple thoughts. Over time, there's not even an emotional reactivity, but just a memory of how it used to be. Now, another thing that I would say is do not create an expectation out of this process. Do not expect anything particular to happen. Do not expect anything positive to come through, because your mind is going to now be waiting for that. And if it doesn't happen, remember, you just created it out of your own imagination. You're not waiting for anything. The only thing that you want is what you can receive in the moment when you allow this through, when you let go of everything. And that is the peace that is felt of not being involved with the narrative, not being involved with it, just simply allowing it. There's a natural peace that befalls in us when we simply let go. Stay with that. And that is not an expectation. That is an immediate result that happens when you simply sit with your emotion, with the narrative, with whatever is playing out, and allow it to be. No judgment, no resisting. But also, because you take identity, there's no more the possibility of you identifying with the story, or better yet, the story informing you about the situation or reality. This is the most effective way to cut the roots of every single limiting belief. First, we need to identify it. We need to know that there is something that creates an emotion in me that prevents me from taking the steps that I want and the things that I want to do. Second, I want to identify it when it comes through. And then I just want to allow it to be. Resting in the peace and the calmness that comes from taking away identity from a story that is simply that. It's a thought pattern that is generated over and over again. And this is how you understand limiting beliefs. You don't create expectations about what would happen when you let them go, and simply stay with the peace that you are. Everything else, your higher intelligence will start informing the mind. Don't create an expectation out of this either. Just know that this peace will begin to inform newly your mind in a different way. And just trust that. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it is helpful for you to tackle these limiting beliefs that you may have a bunch of them that came up as you were watching the video. This is great homework for you to do now in meditation. You can just sit with them as they come through. My recommendation is that you don't try to force to live these experiences in your mind, but just allow them to come through naturally and spontaneously, and then sit with them. If you want to get more into this method, into this practice, then I have a free community where you can join, and it's in Skool. So you can go, it's free. Like I said, you have free courses there, and you have the community, and you have my support, of course, Q&As that we do weekly, and the link is down below. If you feel that you want more personal guidance through this method and you think there's something we can do together, then definitely book a call with me where we can go on a one-on-one session to get to know you better, know exactly where you feel you're at, what blockages you might be feeling, how this can help you, and then we can talk about what we can do together. Again, thank you for watching the video. I hope it was really, really helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.